I'd like to call this month's meeting of the Arundequoit Historic Preservation Commission to order at 7:30. If you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Historian Merrick, if you'd start with a roll call, please.
All right, Chairman Chris Brandt is here.
Here.
Vice Chair Mark John.
Here.
Tom Knopf.
Here.
Bruce Dumbold.
Here.
Greg Walther.
Here.
Sarah Corona.
Here.
Jennifer Ahrens. And I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, first item of business, we'll jump into the review of last month's meeting minutes for the September 26th meeting. I've got a few edits. Greg, I apologize for not getting these to you earlier, but I can at least go through those while others are collecting their thoughts. So the ones I have, second page at the top, under GM reported, we have two mentions of the phrase that currently reads current condition report. We'd want to strike the word current, replace it with the word existing in both instances there, the first and second paragraph, where it comes up once each. And then next one, under old business, first paragraph under CB reported. The first line there, grant from the Landmark Society. Landmark Society is incorrect. That should be replaced with, if you wanted to choose the acronym, NYS, New York State SHPO. It's the Historic Preservation Office, so that'd be NYS space SHPO. And then near the end of that paragraph, we need a in the word your, because I believe it should be year. Same paragraph, last full width line. There should be an A in the word year before A and before.
Oh, it's a spelling error?
Yeah, just a quick little thing. And then I'll open up to others if they have other edits to bring to the floor before we vote for approval.
Jennifer, but she's not here. Anybody else will get that? Last month, Jennifer mentioned Walkup as a contact. I didn't catch the first name. Works City of Rochester.
Oh, that's James. His first name. I believe that, yeah, the last name is spelled just like that. Let me just double check
I got that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he is trying to think what his official position is, but yeah, he is the Preservation Board's staff liaison for the city. I think he may be technically like a planner
Okay.
for the city as far as his position.
Well, I didn't put his position down.
Okay.
I just said it as a good contact.
I just saw a couple of small minor spelling errors. YouTube is Y-O-U tube.
Where's that?
Last page, first line, using a YouTube media.
Oh,
It's Y-O-U.
Yeah, and I believe YouTube is just a single word.
Yeah, it's all one word too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. That's how much I know about YouTube.
And then I think that at the bottom here you meant to say adjourned. You had adjoined at the very bottom.
Yes.
Huh? Yeah.
Just minor stuff. That's it.
Last call for anyone else?
I had one on page 2.
Yep.
the third paragraph down under CB reported and old business. The third line, it says, in the own of Arundecoit, it should be the town of Arundecoit,
Yes.
obviously, so.
Yeah, another spelling error.
Yep.
Typo.
Yeah, you're typing too fast.
I got the Columbus style, find it and land on it.
All right. Last call. Get a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay, Commissioner Johns, I get a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to public input. If you come up to the podium, just make sure to provide your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Deb Murator. I live at 420 Bayview. I'm on the Historical Society board. So we are responsible for the blacksmith shop, the Pioneer House, and there's between them is a garden. So I've been working on the garden the last 3 years with some volunteers. And this year, one of the volunteers asked a question about the Hooker Cemetery. So we spoke at our meeting, and Greg told us that it was, the town owns it, and they do take care of it. It's next to St. Anne's on Portland. And so I talked with Greg Merrick and Greg Champion about the Historic Society, our garden group, doing some landscaping there. So we had some extra marigolds. We took them down there and we planted them. And so while we were there, we noticed that a lot of the gravestones were knocked over. Some of them were almost completely disintegrating. And so we wanted to talk to the Historic Preservation Group to see who really is responsible to maintain the cemetery, the stones and stuff like that. So it seemed to be a little bit of a gray area, so I don't know if that's something, you guys would need to research and then, possibly let Greg know it, and he could, let the Historical Society know. And then hopefully next year, our group does want to go there and plant some more flowers. And I know some of the residents at St. Anne's were walking by when we were there, and they were very pleased that we were there planting flowers. So they said is that something you guys can
So,
look into?
Yeah, we'd be happy to look into it because I think your assumption is correct. I don't think not to speak for everyone, but if anyone knows more, please chime in. But I don't think we know enough to respond to that question in a informed manner
Right.
at this meeting. I do know, at least for the city of Rochester and Mount Hope Cemetery, it appears like a lot of the specific headstone maintenance and repair in recent years has really been more enacted by the Private Friends non-for-profit group and not by city forces. The city, at least for Mount Hope, primarily just maintains the grounds and then maintains the sort of primary structures like the keeper's house and chapel buildings within. I know there's definitely pretty stringent regulations as far as protecting cemeteries from redevelopment and removing graves, but as far as the actual maintenance of markers, that's a bit more of a gray area because often those markers would be maintained through the investment of the family that placed it there at the gravesite. So, yeah, I don't know more beyond that unless others do, but we could certainly look a little more into it.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much to Deb. And thank you for coming. You're only public input for the night, but thank you for your time. We do not have any applications for, well, we received a administrative application for the hardware replacement on the town board, or sorry, the town hall entry doors, but as far as any formal applications for certificate of appropriateness or for landmark designations, we have not received any for this month's meeting. Move to new business. We don't have any items on the agenda, but if there are new items that commission members want to add to the agenda, I'll open the floor if anyone wants to add something. No? Okay, we'll jump to the liaison report. Craig, if you have things to share on your end from either from the town or your interaction with the Arundequoit Historical Society.
Okay. Each member tonight got 3 publications that there were extras from. We found a box full of significant copies, extra copies, so we offered them to the board members tonight so that from the historian's office, you'll get a copy. You get those copies up there. One was early Arundequoit homes, early days in Arundequoit, and the other one was actually a printing of a book, and I don't have a copy of that with me, but yes. What is it called? Early Arundequoit?
Memories.
Yeah, early Arundequoit memories. And then I think shouldn't say this right off the bat. Okay, so yeah, the Early Arundequoit Memories is a publication by the Arundequoit Historical Society, whereas, yeah, Early Arundequoit Homes and Early Days in Arundequoit appear to both be publications by the town historian's office.
Correct. Now, the booklet that's being sold by the Arundequoit Historical Society is at $18.50 price, but we found a significant amount extra. That's all for sale, but that was a token that the society wanted to give to the boards for the help that you've given so far and the help that we hope to receive in the future between the Pioneer House and the blacksmith shop.
Great, thank you very much. And these are also, I think, great resources on top of other ones that we know about as far as providing resources to the potential consultant when the time comes for the townwide historic resource survey. These will be great resources for that consultant.
Well, I can get you another copy if you do need one for that.
Or if we want to collect them, I think would probably be a great sort of preemptive idea while we're waiting for the RFP to be issued and then for the consultant to be selected. It might be good if we start to collect what we think some of those resources might be in the historian's office so we can have a sort of package to provide to the selected consultant when we get there.
Okay. I'll work with you on that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Greg.
The other part was that the Historical Society did contract with, for that existing building conditions report, and that was, the inspection was held last week on the it's called the Cobblestone Blacksmith Shop, and it's the Pioneer House, the 2 museum pieces on the town property. And so the inspection's been done, and now we're just awaiting the report, which is about 8 weeks, I guess, right?
Okay,
And I don't
That's
think
it?
I have anything else.
all right.
Short memory tonight.
Have we received any correspondence? I've not received any sort of direct correspondence to my email, but I don't know if you've received any correspondence.
I have not, and I was in the mail room yesterday,
Okay,
and there was nothing new in the mail room, so we don't have any snail mail or any email.
I guess this is adjacent and related to correspondence. I apologize. This is really an error. It should be under new business. Or I guess no, it's really under old business because we discussed it last month. But under correspondence, then related to an old business item we had talked about, as we did last year, we now have this sort of rolling annual enrollment on the commission because all of our seats are staggered. So the official post to request any and all interested parties, including current members of the commission, to submit for consideration for the seat that will be up in January of 2024 for a 7-year term. I do know that if he's okay with me sharing, I know Commissioner Tom Knopf let me know he is elected to not seek a new 7-year term. So he'll be rotating off the commission at the end of the year. So the seat will be sort of open for other potential Arundequoit residents who are interested in serving. We certainly want to thank Commissioner Knopf for his years of service. I think you started 2005, 2006 on the commission. I'm trying to remember what your starting year is. I mean, you certainly predate me by a lot, because I'm, I think, one of the newer folks. I think I attended the meetings as a guest in 2014, but I don't think I became a member till 2015, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I started as a member in 2015.
Probably around 2013 or 2012, somewhere in there.
So, 10 years.
Reagan and Bruce ran well before I was on.
But yeah, well, we will
Double duty.
we'll make the most of your presence for the next couple of months. We'll definitely miss you starting in January. But yeah, so related to that in correspondence, at least on my end, I did receive notice of one interested person so far who intended to apply, but when they apply, you'll be receiving it. So since you haven't received anything yet, they obviously have not applied yet, but they, at least by email message to me, had indicated they were interested. So we'll see. Hopefully,
So just to be clear, the applications have to be received through the historian's office
correct. Yep,
at the Town Hall, 1280 Titus Avenue, 14617.
correct.
And as of yesterday, we had no mail for that.
No mail yet.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
and I think we did, at least in this notice, they were provided the option to email their applications to you.
Okay,
but-
I haven't received any yet.
Okay. And we have, if I remember correctly, I think the due date, because I don't have the flyer on me at the moment, but if I look at the calendar, I think the due date, I believe, is, I think it's November 14th, a Tuesday, but I could be mistaken. It might be November 13th, the Monday, the day before. So there's still
2 weeks, 3 weeks.
3 weeks left, but I did at least receive indication that there is an interested citizen who is intending on applying. I hope that we get more to sort of review and potentially interview.
And I understand that's been posted by Michelle.
Yes. Okay. So we'll jump down to old business. I've got a brief update for the town-wide historic resource survey. The final draft of the RFP, including the state contract requirements, has been sort of compiled and now sort of sent to town staff and the town council for final review and editing before the RFP gets released. So I'm hopeful that they will conduct their review, and then we'll be in a position to post the final request for proposals on that before our next meeting. Then jumping to code update, I still owe sending folks portions of the code for people that volunteered. I did start the process of compiling all the notes and made a few edits near the beginning of the document, but I'll do my best to get portions of that to everyone. I still got to figure out how we're going to divide up the Word document and get it to everyone without causing a little bit of chaos and trying to stitch everything back together in the end. I don't have anything else to report on that unless anyone else has questions. And then,
Could that be put on the Google Drive so that there'd just be one copy, and then Obviously, only one person could work on it.
Right,
at
they
a
could
time,
that's
but-
probably a good idea, so then people could just cycle through it. Yeah, that's a really good idea, Bruce. So then maybe we could try to roughly set a schedule and give each person X amount of days to work on their portion, and then they can re-upload it. Yeah, why don't we do that? I'll plan on that. I'll try to work on that this week or this weekend when I get a chance and get everyone sort of lined up for that.
All you gotta do is just send a link out, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a really good suggestion, Bruce. Thank you. Okay, so next item, I know we got some copies in front of us. I'll jump into the draft of the landmark designation pamphlet that Commissioner Corona and Commissioner Aaron's are working on. So I know Commissioner Aaron's is homesick, so I'll just turn it over to Sarah if you want to take the floor.
So Jennifer and I kind of took examples from other towns, the brochures that they had, and kind of picked out what we thought was important or relevant to our particular commission. So kind of compiled it all in here. So we have the letter that we created that was supposed to give basic information, and then we're hoping this will answer any questions anyone has after reading the letter. And we did try to word things a little simpler so people who are unfamiliar with this whole process will understand it and won't seem so scary or confusing. And then Chris already gave us some edits for it that I've put into here. So I guess we just kind of want to know what you all think and if there's anything you suggest. And then on the back side at the bottom, some things we were thinking of including, and Chris did answer some of these via email earlier, about including the email address for the town historian to get forms or have forms on the website for download. And it sounds like we will have them on the website. Is that correct, Chris, with the edits you made?
Yeah, I think that just to lessen the burden on Greg, I think it's just better for us to have the forms on the website because it's a pretty easy lift to get that done.
Yeah, and then I wasn't sure about the email address, because kind of like how long is this brochure going to be around? Do we need to change it if we have a different historian or, email addresses change? So I didn't know if we should just leave it saying that you get all the forms on the website.
That might be, maybe that's something we can address in the PDF forms. That might be easier to have those updated as needed. Or even, this is the more of a sort of advanced ask, but right now I think most of the email addresses for town staff are by name and not by position. But I wonder if there's some ability to create a historian at irondequoit.gov instead of having it be specifically tied to an individual.
I apologize, there may be one. I'm going to have to look at that. If there is one, I have been neglecting to review it.
I haven't seen one, but yeah, it'd be interesting, or even if there was one, to have it.
I'm sure, because they have
Right.
it for all the other departments.
Okay. Yeah, I think that might make it more foolproof if it's an email address by position, and then that email address just gets, depending on who the historian is, they end up taking hold of that, or the emails from that get forwarded to their personal or person-specific email.
Then the other thing we talked about, adding the addresses of the designated properties, which Chris liked that idea, and that would be super easy to add on, and then even pictures of designated properties. And again, we were comparing brochures that other towns had, and a lot of them had historic pictures. A lot of them were drawings, like what are in some of what Greg gave us in these books. But then we could have actual photographs too. So it was just kind of something to make it look nice. But that is all going to depend too on how all this fits on a brochure as to like what pictures we can add or things like that.
Are you intending it to be one page?
No, it'll be like a regular brochure. Like, so, what do you mean? Like a,
Bifold or
probably,
legal size?
maybe, I guess whatever kind of fits. We're going to play around with it. And I guess to what we're able to, like, is this going to be a brochure that we're just printing off the the printer here and folding ourselves, or something professionally printed, so that would all depend too on the size and therefore the layout.
I feel like to keep it from getting too unwieldy, I think probably the legal size, like Mark was saying, probably makes a lot of sense if it's gonna be like a tri or a quad fold. I feel like if it were taller than 8.5 by 11, it starts to feel like it would like start to droop.
Yeah.
So the legal gives you that extra for the sort of fourth panel without getting too overly tall.
It might, what if we were to put the photographs on a website and just reference them in this? Because I think that'd be easier to add to than republishing the brochure.
Others' thoughts on that?
Well, it's nice to have a couple pictures or graphics instead of just having all words. So maybe the most famous ones. I don't know.
Or what if it were current photos on the website and then a handful of select historic photos on the brochure? That could be something different.
Yeah, and I was wondering too if there might be some owners of the houses that don't want their house on the brochure, but just we've got the town hall and the
Yeah, some of them are iconic.
two other
ones.
houses, yeah,
All right.
and
Yeah. So then maybe a few historic. Yeah, and then I think that also then frees up the space that if we were to have addresses at designated properties, I think that's still a good resource, but it's probably best to more have that on the website.
Didn't we do some of this editing? You took the edits that we did last meeting and then gave them to Sarah? Is that what we did?
that was for the letter, probably.
the letter,
Only for
yeah.
the-
Yeah.
We did
Yeah.
not talk about the brochure.
Correct. Yeah, it's the first round for the brochure.
Because I think I'm mistakenly interchanging the letter and brochure when we're talking about this stuff.
Yeah, the thing that does have addresses on it is the RFP for the information for the potential consultants. We did list the current landmark designated properties as well as the current National Register listed properties in the RFP.
I like the facts part. Maybe we could add a few more of those of
Yeah,
like some of the more common misconceptions, like can I paint my house this color or whatever, just something like that.
well, so to what I was thinking, because I agree with that, but I wonder, again, it's probably gonna depend on the layout and how it looks. If we just keep a few on here, but then I think we should have some on the website, because I'm sure there's a lot of questions people will have.
I also wonder for some of the additional FAQs, like, do we not reinvent the wheel and then try to have a resource that people can look at on the website?
I know people won't go to that. They'll see this and
Right.
this is what you're getting their attention right now. And
I mean, I know at least in here, I think if I remember correctly, Sarah, you do mention paint
Yes.
somewhere here, and we do say that
that
paint,
in the
yeah, the paint color is not, but it's not down the FAQs. I think it's further up the document and
okay,
items that don't require review.
but something like that, that's kind of common that people think it controls, but it really doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the last sentence up near the top of the second page. The last sentence of that second paragraph right above, change that require approval, says a change in paint color does not require commission review.
So, or you take it out of there and put it down here.
There's a concern here, that one of the fixed and answer the questions. I wanted to
Make sure to hit your mic.
I want to sell my landmark designated property. Do I need to tell the HCP? This also begs the question, do I need to, there's a disclosure. Tom knows about this. Like, it almost like we have to tell about disclosure. Like, you have to disclose to, a seller would probably have to disclose to a buyer that this is a designated property. And without putting that and only this question in there, we should be putting both in there.
But isn't it on the deed?
Yeah, but you still have to disclose. It's recorded with
With the
Well, Tom,
clerk.
it's,
Yeah.
it's recorded with the property, right? With the county clerk's office?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like the 690 decision got recorded.
Yeah.
If there's no reference, if you're gonna do an abstract, the redate, they're not gonna pick up anything from the historical society.
Yeah.
There's nothing on a deed like a restrictive covenant or something that's, but I agree that and there's no question on a property condition disclosure statement relative to historic preservation.
But I think you're still
On
obligated.
the other, I would think that if you're representing a seller, that you'd want, as the realtor, that you'd want the seller to put that on.
Yeah, so to have this question and not answer that question about disclosure, I think that we are doing a disservice and not, either we
Right.
remove that question altogether or we add that in there that, although, you don't have to tell the HPC, but you may maybe use the word may.
Or like are
I'm not a lawyer,
encouraged.
but
Yeah.
you may have to disclose this if you're selling the property to the potential buyer.
Right.
Well, what do you mean may? And you said you do.
Well, I think you do. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm also a realtor, but I would just, if it was me personally, I would think you would have to disclose it. But I'm not a lawyer. Tom's a real estate lawyer, so yeah, I think would you agree with me, Tom? That you have to disclose that?
Definitely. I would say
Yeah.
that if
Yeah.
you're a seller and you've been.
Because if it's restrictions on the property.
Structure, and you're underneath the code, yes,
Yeah.
you should definitely tell
Yeah.
a prospective buyer, right before you put in a purchase offer.
Yeah.
that the property is under the code.
So I guess I definitely agree, but my question is as far as if this gets a little bit out of the bounds of our purview. So as far as how we word it, would it be like the commission encourages all landmark property owners to notify potential sellers of your property's designation? Like we can't require them, because that's sort of outside of our purview. It's just, I want to be careful about how we would word that, but I do agree. I think it would be good to bring it up in that as just a sort of,
We probably have to be carefully wordsmith it, but we should still have some type of mention in there. I think I think we'd be doing a disservice by not at least bringing that up in there.
Should we say something like, I know we talked about this in the code using different words, but could you say should? Because that does not say you're required, but I feel like it's a little stronger word to you really should tell them versus it's suggested. So maybe say
Right.
you should, however, inform the new purchasers or.
It's gotta be wordsmith.
I think we should stay away from it entirely.
So then drop the question altogether.
Because there's other things that should be disclosed when someone sells. That's just not our area of expertise. And
So then I think we
I mean, to me, that's something that the realtors should be responsible for that.
Well, they're responsible for filling out a property condition disclosure statement with their client. But, I definitely think that if you have a house that has been designated as a historic home, I would think, if I represented the seller, I would say definitely disclose that. Because 5 years down the road, the buyer might want to tear down part of his house and put on an addition of 3 bedrooms, and he won't be able to do that.
I completely agree with you. I'm just saying that I don't think it's our place to put it in this
Put it in the brochure, right.
So but I was saying then get rid of this thing about telling the HPC.
I tend to agree with that.
Because we're getting ourselves into that, like, well, why didn't you talk about that if you're telling the HPC? So I just
Yeah.
extract it all together.
Agreed.
I think I see a lot of nodding heads. We're just going to sort of strike that question altogether.
I liked it.
I was saying either you keep it in and then add that in, or take it out altogether. So I agree with Bruce, just take it out.
Okay.
Is everybody else? We got nodding heads.
Yeah.
Everybody okay?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I do like odd numbers, so maybe we need to figure out a third FAQ.
I know, I was just thinking.
Well, on that second question, isn't it town code period that you need to keep your properties up? The historic, this doesn't add an additional overlay to that, correct?
No, yeah, there is language in our code, but it's redundant because it's already, the property maintenance code's already enforced by either by reference or specifically in the town code to begin with. So, yeah, we already have it sort of redundantly in our chapter's language.
So I would just change the answer, reword it to say, like any non-designated property, all town properties need to be maintained per the town of Arundequoit code.
It kind of says that at the end of the last sentence.
Yeah, but that's later. I would
Right.
make it sound like we're not asking for anything additional.
Right.
Regardless of designation or not, you need to maintain your property, period.
Right.
Being designated has nothing to do with it. But I like the question, I mean, and just say, no, you
But
just
if
have to
being
keep.
designated has nothing to do with it, why are we including it in this? Once again, it's like we're saying,
Well, then again,
follow the building code.
Yeah.
That's not our thing.
Well, this one I see, it's worth including because people might think there's extra things they have to do. And so this one, we could say something like all town properties, you are required to upkeep your house according to the code. But this should
Or could we
insinuate
say
nothing extra.
designation doesn't require any more maintenance than,
Any other property?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's better.
Words
Yeah.
more like that. You're not gonna be held to a higher standard than other people.
Right.
right, yes, that's a good way to put it.
And I think you maybe use the term local code, because the town has some code language, but it's also required by the state, which the town enforces. So if you say your local code, you would be encompassing anything that was enforceable. The town would be the enforcer, but it could be state code or town code.
Yeah, I like what Bruce said. Did you get that, Sarah?
I did not. I did not totally get, I didn't get the exact wording.
Let me think about that.
Because I was thinking about wording for the beginning of it, so.
Or what if someone wants to widen their driveway or change their sidewalk? Something like that. Can we throw something in there about, as long as it's undoable?
Right, and that's always been like in my experience, it always ends up being kind of a bit of a gray area for a lot of preservation commissions. That I do know this city is a little bit more cut and dry about it, that they do review like any hardscape changes and any significant changes to landscape features. But I feel like a lot of towns, usually it sort of falls back to like, is it a significant landscape feature? And then if not, it kind of gets glossed over. But yeah, that's a good point to bring up, Mark, which in some ways is sort of part of the process that we've been doing, going through the code to be a little bit more well thought out about those elements, because I feel like it always gets sort of lost in the cracks. But that would maybe be something for potential expansion.
Because the normal thing, people want to put fences up, they want to maybe change your driveway, widen
Right.
it, or
And some of that is not in
Put a
just the
pool.
building code, that's also in the zoning.
Right, yeah,
The width of a driveway, length of a driveway is calculated on the square footage, and it's the percentage of the property that it impedes. And then also if it crosses over, if you widen your driveway and you're gonna take that width all the way to the road, you're gonna be crossing basically the town easement or the right-of-way. and then that needs a permit from the Department of Public Works. Fences are under zoning,
So that's
4
where we
foot, 6
throw the
foot,
blame
front
on
line,
everybody
back line.
else. It's
What's
like,
that?
We're not doing anything.
Well, basically, people just need to know that they just need to follow general town code or local code for any.
But yeah, I wonder if, yeah, we need something.
Well, but if somebody did do that, say they go to zoning, would that be something we would make a determination on, like a driveway widening or something? I mean, that's all
Yeah.
reversible stuff.
Right, yeah, that's kind of like where I'm leaning too. I feel like that's like getting us,
It's not part of the structure.
yeah, it's getting us beyond our, what the sort of vision of our primary charge is. I feel like the only reason why things like that potentially get reviewed in this city is because one of the primary districts there has a lot of rentals. And so you end up seeing a lot of things of like trying to pave over backyards, and then that actually gets reviewed.
That's zoning,
Right.
it's not historic.
Well, some of those do get reviewed by their historic
In the
preservation
historic
board. Yeah, but I think my feeling is the reason why is because of that specific parameter that we don't really have here, where they have a high level of rental in a large district, and so it's sort of become part of their enforcement process as a board, whereas it's sort of uncharted territory for us. I feel like it would almost be potentially, if there's some way to tie to like changes to like site features that were like noted in the designation, that would be something under review. But if we didn't note it, then it seems like it's falling outside of our purview. I don't want to be reviewing driveways or
The only site feature that I'm
New
aware
walks.
that we mentioned was the green space for that church we just did.
right.
Other than that, I'm not aware of any of the individual residential structures.
Right,
We didn't
yeah.
include any site features, they were small.
Yeah, agreed. So do we not mention anything about site changes for now?
I don't know, it's just trying to get a bigger list of, because those are the
Right.
typical things people think,
Mhm.
oh, I won't be able to do this, I can't do that, and just to calm any fears.
Or for some way, essentially saying the majority of changes and improvements to the site of a landmark designated property often fall under the purview of the zoning and or planning boards. Sort of point them in that direction, but not necessarily close the door completely, but indicate that essentially the majority of the time you're going here unless there's a special case that would merit review by the Preservation Commission. But like you rightly noted, Mark, I don't think we have any current designations right now that have clearly indicated significant site features that would be considered part of the designation. Right,
You may, I like the idea about the painting, because that's a big question, frequently asked.
right,
Can I change the color, or can I paint the house?
yeah,
As opposed to siding, you wouldn't be able to do that, but maybe we need to provide the development services an information sheet, which we can change as information changes, and then reference in the brochure to, if they have further questions, to contact the local community service department or community development department, which encompasses the building inspector, planning, zoning, fire safety, and code compliance, which are your grass, weeds, vacant, properties, junk cars. And then we better communicate with them so that they can answer those questions, or they can at least take the question and refer it back to us, have a contact, and get the answer to the individual. Because sometimes it's a Department of Public Works, sometimes it's a zoning, sometimes it's a building code.
Yeah, I think having that reference would be,
Yeah, and I think that we don't need to be siloed as much as we are. I think we need to kind of be communicating better than we are.
so that could be, if there's some way we can sort of fit that in the FAQs, where I think it's touching on Mark's questions about changes to the site, and that I think for them provides the opportunity to talk about, often those are falling under the purview of these other boards, and we encourage you to contact the Community Development Department for more information with specific questions.
I don't think we even designate.
You should raise your mic.
I don't even know if we designate the garages. If you have a detached garage. I think that's excluded.
Well, it's not, in our code, it doesn't say it's not. And I would tend to follow the National Register's lead.
So what's the National Register?
They have the provision of whether or not a secondary or outbuilding is contributing to the property, so they actually call it out. So following the National Register's lead, I would say a existing building or structure on a designated property would be under our purview.
But does the application cover that? When you're putting an address down, are you putting an address down for, is it all inclusive always? Is that assumed? I don't know.
I mean, by the clerk filing that we've done for all the designations, they pertain to the tax parcel. So it is the property, and the buildings are on the property. But I don't think it's been spelled out.
Like, what if you had a building that's
Clear
not
enough.
conforming on there? Like, you put up a kit from Lowe's on there, like, is that conform? It's not, it wouldn't be conforming. Would that be, they could, now that they have to.
Oh, if there was like an existing
Yeah, but they have to come for a
non-historic
certificate of appropriate
structure.
for the Lowe's kit shed that they put on the back, and that's what I'm saying, like, where are we going? This is
Well, again, that would be, they would need to get a permit for that,
Right.
well, I'm
because
just saying,
that would
does he
be
have to go
part
for
under
certificate
zoning
of,
for,
I'm just talking about certificate of appropriateness, so you're gonna, where does that fall in? Like, that's where our purview would be in, obviously, it's a non-conforming thing, so they wouldn't need to have a certificate of appropriateness. It's a non-conforming building on the property. That's my understanding, that's how I.
what is the registry? Is it only on the structure, or is it on the property?
For the National Register,
Well, for anything we would designate at the board here.
we've been designating properties, or like the parcel. It's not the specific structure on the parcel. I'll say with that, with one caveat, we did get specific with 690 Titus because of the confusion with, there are two buildings on the parcel that was part of the application. So we specifically noted that the designation for that particular property pertained only to the commercial building present on the property and not the residence that was also part of the same parcel. But otherwise, we've not expressly noted a specific building or structure being the sole focus of the designation, unless I'm mistaken. But at least to my knowledge, we've not been that specific, with the sole exception of the most recent designation.
So if you had a residential property with a detached garage, both structures would be in the decision, right?
Yes, yep.
Okay. So they would need a permit or a certificate of appropriateness for both buildings then, either or.
Changes to either, right?
So if the detached garage was, they wanted to expand it from a single to a two-car garage, they would need to get a certificate of appropriateness.
Correct.
Okay.
But I would say, or would encourage commissioners in this theoretical review process that similar to the National Register and the Secretary of the Interior standards, which we generally follow in our review of those changes, there's going to be less emphasis on that secondary building. And so in our review, we shouldn't be as stringent in our interpretation of our consideration of the appropriateness of the change if it's to a secondary structure. Like, it holds less importance for the whole of the designated property, but it should still be reviewed.
And it might, if it were like a carriage house, you know.
Right. Yeah, there are instances where potentially it could be, the secondary building could be more
But again, that
or
would be
equally
where
significant.
we would need to keep that communication with the development services,
Right.
community development or whatever. Forgot what that department's name is, but building and planning and zoning and everything are out of.
This is starting to sound like an FAQ.
Well, how do you want me to write it? I guess that's where I'm.
Right. I'm trying to think like how you structure the question, but it's essentially trying to reach for the clarification that
I'm just thinking there's a
existing
lot of-
buildings on the property, even if there's more than one.
What? I didn't mean to put that up. I was curious myself. I didn't mean for that to be a frequently asked question because I don't know if it would be. But if it's a question at all and we would have to consider it, it should be on an information, an outline of some kind that we would give to development services upstairs so that if somebody called and said, hey, I have a designated property and I want to make the garage a two-car garage, do I need to get a certificate of appropriateness? They would be able to answer yes or no, or be able to say, that's a good question, I don't have that information, because they may not.
Right.
But they would have a contact to get a hold of us and let us, or this board, know that, that they have this question, and so it could get answered in a timely manner.
So maybe the question could be,
Is
do I?
there-
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of questions that come into the historian's office that have nothing to do with the historian. More the assessor's office, when people are looking for, how many owners of this property. We don't keep every property down in the historian's office. We keep historical. Some buildings that are no longer there, and some buildings that are historically, but we don't keep track of every owner, Maybe an example would be Nick Seabreeze Inn once was a Seabreeze Bowling, and its current owner, it's now a restaurant. And we may have information in between there, but if you want to be more specific on who's owned it, you could get that through the assessors, but they call the historian's office.
So maybe the question could be, do I need a certificate of appropriateness for changing my garage? Could be the question, and then
Or
that would
for-
prompt the answer of clarifying that.
My detached garage.
Right.
Yeah.
Attached garage is kind of.
Right. Yes, that's true. Yeah. So yeah, do I have to get a certificate of appropriateness
Maybe you
to
just
make
say
changes to my
accessory
detached
structure.
garage? Oh, right.
Say accessory structure, then it would include a garage or a
Well, what if you
carriage
say
house or.
garage or secondary structure?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I'd know necessarily what that was.
Yeah. You get lost in the
Yeah, so-
code jargon.
Do I need a COA to make,
Changes to my detached garage or accessory structure.
Yeah, just dumb it down a little bit. Just say detached garage or outside structure or something. Leave it at that.
I have a question regarding this. When we look at buildings, we only look from the street and the two side.
But that's why I was gonna make appendix.
So if somebody wants to put a big, huge bay window off the back side of their house and you can't see it from the street, we have nothing to say about that, correct?
By the code, we do, but again, it would still fall into, you have this diminishing level of importance. So in our review, again, we shouldn't be holding the back of the house to the same standard that we would hold the front. But as the code reads, it's exterior changes, period, so,
But if somebody wants to put that big bay window on the back of their house, they're not gonna get a permit for that. Nobody's ever gonna know about it.
true, right. Yeah, which, certainly happens, there's countless,
So I
there's
guess
countless examples of stuff like that happening and not, the permit's not being pulled, and so the enforcement doesn't happen, and we're not gonna be walking into people's backyards.
Right, right. So do we want to say anything about visibility from the street, which could include a detached garage? Maybe that's overcomplicating it, but really that's how we do it. Even when we did our verbal descriptions of Wimbledon, we would just comment on the garage.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what we need to say, but let them read between the lines, but to say an important criteria for certificates of appropriateness is what is seen from the street. Let people interpret what that means on their own. Like, they'll be like, oh, okay, like, my garage behind my house, and they're not gonna really give a crap. Like,
Oh, and that's the way we do it, so.
Right.
Let them come to their own, I think you can come to their conclusion about the way you word the question and the answer, like, what is the primary, what is one of the primary criteria for a certificate of appropriateness? Answer, if the property holds the same original character from the street view, maybe say that. Then people will be like, oh, from the street view. You know what I'm saying? The answer will tell the answer to other questions too. You get what I'm saying? One of the main criteria, just say like, what is one of the main criteria for certificate of appropriateness? It's the seed, it's what we see of the property from the street view. And it holds the original character of the house.
So that's maybe something, that would then go up more
No, Bruce?
in changes that require approval, that section in your draft, Sarah, so that, maybe it's towards the end of that main paragraph where you're talking about elements such as materials, window size and arrangement, and roof shape, maybe reviewed as part of this process.
Like which paragraph? I'm lost.
Sorry, second paragraph underneath, changes that require approval.
Oh, second paragraph. Yeah.
Yep. So in that paragraph, I could imagine maybe that last sentence that currently reads elements such as materials, window size and arrangement, and roof shape may be reviewed as part of this process. I could imagine a situation where we adjust that sentence to include what Greg is getting at, where we would sort of insert that the visibility of elements or changes from the street sort of being given priority in that review, or
What about saying like at right to the end of it, saying with priority given to what can be seen from the street?
that's a good idea, yeah.
And can we go back to the making changes to a garage? What was the answer to that?
Oh, so
Because
the,
wasn't that kind of a it depends?
the answer, I think, to that question is that
The answer is
changes
really
to all
yes.
existing buildings on a designated property.
Right. The answer would be yes, and then the level would have to determine the scope of work, but it would need a certificate of appropriateness.
Yeah, so I think the
Oh,
first
yeah.
sentence is yes, all existing buildings on a designated property, or changes to any existing building on a designated property requires
At time of designation. At time of designation.
right, but that's implied that it's there. I think that gets a little too into the weeds. Any existing buildings on a designated property, changes to any existing buildings on a designated property require a C of A. And then I think, so that's the first part, and then whether we sort of reintroduce the same sort of thought pattern that with priority given to the primary structure and elements that are visible from the street or from the public right of way. I think it probably should be two-tiered. It's both re-emphasizing view from the public right of way, but then also emphasizing that priority is given to the primary structure. So that also starts this sort of indication that there's going to be a lesser level of review for those accessory structures, but there still needs to be review.
So I put, so yes, changes to any existing building on the designated property require a COA. Priority will be given to the primary structure and what can be seen from the public right of way.
Great.
And then, so thought, because I know Jennifer and I were really trying to keep this in mind for the brochure, instead of public right of way, should we say from the street?
Yes, yeah. You're doing a good job of keeping all of that
Yeah.
jargon out of this, which I'm terrible at, constantly
Public
inserting
right of way.
jargon.
What if it's a corner?
Right. Well, but that's still a street if it's on a corner lot, so it's still visible from two streets. So I think it's still good for Sarah to simplify it to street.
Needs to be on the address side of the house, right?
I think corner lots are different, just like zoning requirements for corner lots are different.
No, we're gonna get a nuance.
I think sticking to the street is a good idea.
We need to
But-
cut it down, 'cause you could come up with all
Yeah,
these scenarios.
yeah. I think visible from the street is perfect.
And then two, if we do, 'cause it sounds like our goal is to put a lot of information, not just on about the stuff in the brochure, but things about historic preservation onto the website. So maybe we can have a goal of having even more of these FAQs on the website. So maybe we could put on here, I don't know if it's something we'd want to do now, or if we do get something on the website, but put under, have these 3 FAQs and then say for more FAQs,
Yeah,
visit the website, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
yeah. Because I don't want the list to get too crazy on
Right, yeah.
the brochure, but I'm happy to have us populate more on the website.
Okay, so should we add that later or add that now? The for more. 'cause I
Let's
know we
add it
don't-
later, because
yeah.
then that, yeah. Although maybe to lead them to the website, though, your sentence there where you have for further information or questions about landmark designation in the town of Arundequoit, please contact the Arundequoit Town Historian. That might be an opportunity just to insert into that sentence to encourage them to visit our page on the town's website, and we can begin to populate that with additional information, because we're already having the forms up there, but then we can also populate it with some other resources.
Perfect.
Again, I'm reminding everybody to speak into their mics and make sure they're on when you're making comments, please.
One other thing I'll add, this is contingent on what Greg sort of finds out from, I guess, IT at the town, but if we do confirm that there is a email address by position for historian, then I think I would advocate for actually having that in here, maybe with the phone number, unless anyone feels strongly about one or the other, but I think having the email address, if it is a standardized email address, I think would be great to have in here, in addition to the phone number, because I know some folks don't like talking on the phone. They prefer to send an email. I am guilty of that myself.
And I guess I would like to ask on this edits that we're making in the brochure, is this something that you could make in a relatively short period of time, and we could send it out in an email to everybody to be able to review it before the next meeting, so we can expedite the finalization?
Like the formatting of the
Well,
brochure?
just the corrections that you're making.
Oh, corrections, definitely, yeah.
And some of the things that were mentioned tonight where you've edited, put those out to the members,
Yeah, I could do that.
and then we could make our comments before the next meeting, and then enter them into the record, and maybe come up with a more finalized version of this draft. I'm just trying to speed up the process, I'm sorry.
No, I could definitely do it within the week. I could get these corrections.
I'll give everyone a few more moments to get other comments or edits for Sarah. Everyone can look at me and nod their head if they're good. Okay. Last call on any edits. Are you all good, Tom? You need a little more time? Are you all good, or you need a little more time? Okay. All right, jump to the last item on old business. My update in regards to the Wimbledon Road National Register District. I've been able to advance the draft a little bit this month, and I'm still targeting to complete the nomination draft to submit to SHPO by the end of the year. So that's my update. I believe I also, if I'm remembering correctly, I think in the last month I also got another notification from another property owner who's pursuing tax credits on their property within the district. So I think that makes 3 properties now in the district that have gotten preemptive review and approval from SHPO. So there's definitely a lot of interest from the property owners in this district to pursue those historic tax credits for their homes. So that's a great sort of indication of potentially the growing interest in that, and maybe the possibility of other national register districts in the future throughout in other parts of the town. Do you have any updates for markers, Mark?
No, not the markers, but you asked me.
Oh, yes, so if we have a new item,
Well,
though it's at the, I guess it's still kind of old business, but an item to add under old business. So this is plaques for designated properties. I did ask Mark if he could give us an update and get an idea of which properties have them, which don't. And I'm hoping that we can then potentially proceed with ordering a few, depending on how many properties we still have in the hopper that need them. So I'll let Commissioner Johns take over.
well, I haven't been able to locate, I did have an Excel spreadsheet that I thought indicated which houses had plaques, which didn't. And that would have predated me. And then since I've been here, we just did 3. And I was able to find those 3, but they only have the years of the house, the year the house was built, and not the address. So I'm trying to reconcile those with the properties. I have 3 noted, but like 2523 St. Paul, 101 Chestnut Hill Drive, and the other is just by the name, Noack Home, but I don't know what the address of that would be.
That's the Walzer.
Is it? It
That's
says
the Walzer Road
yeah,
house.
Walzer, right? That was it. That was the. But the dates don't all correspond, so that's why I'm confused. Because I have designation date. No, I have construction dates, and those don't necessarily correspond to the dates on the plaques. And these were the dates that Patricia gave me. These are the 3 plaques that we had made and gave to those property owners. But it would be Walzer. It was Walzer Road, only I don't know what or 21, I guess. 25, 23 St. Paul, and 101 Chestnut. Those are the only three that we've done in the recent decade.
Okay.
And the others would have had plaques from before, and I'm still trying to dig those up.
Okay. Do you recall an Excel file, Bruce? Because you've been on the board for quite a while.
No, I
Okay.
don't.
But I do have a list, and it said list of historic properties that I thought was our hit list for the plaques.
Okay.
But for some reason, we didn't start at number one. I don't know why. And it says, and the blacksmith's on here. I don't know if that has a plaque or not. So nothing makes sense. So I have to do more digging.
That's one suggestion I'd have, because it's easier for us to check on these ones, but the 3 town-owned designated smaller buildings, so we have the Pioneer House, the blacksmith shop, and then the smokehouse.
Yeah, smokehouse is on here, and the blacksmith is on.
So I wonder
Oh, the Pioneer House is
Yeah.
on here as well.
if we can confirm if any of those do not have plaques. I would at least throw my hat in the ring as far as a recommendation. Maybe those would be a prime candidate to know for sure that they need a plaque and feel safe in ordering a plaque for those properties. And then we can potentially try to do a little more digging in the next month to find out if we can get a better sense of private property owners that have or do not have plaques.
Well, Greg's is on here too, and we know he didn't have one.
Okay.
And then the Porter Home, 3146 St. Paul. I don't know if that's the group home, the kids' home, Berkshire Home.
I don't,
Where
Yeah.
What's the
sinkhole-
address?
yeah.
Where the sinkhole.
We said, 3146, that's,
No, that
no,
was
that's
down
that's
further.
up.
Yeah,
that's
that-
up a ways.
You're talking up by Armstrong is 2500 block.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm
31 is north of Titus.
Yeah. you're right,
3100 is north of
But
Titus.
I'm not aware of one up there.
Oh, 3146, I think that's the Ward Wellington Ward designed Tudor house that's next to the Ukrainian church,
Oh, right in the.
like right next to the church. It's sort of buried in its landscaping. I think that's 3146.
Yeah, I thought they had one already. 'Cause
Okay.
That was on. There was an open house. and
Yeah,
I went to that,
yep.
and I could have sworn I saw the plaque
Okay.
in the back door already. So I don't know why that would be on here.
Maybe that could be a piece of homework for the month if commission members want to sort of in their free time, if they're driving around,
No,
just
if they put them up. That's
right.
the thing.
Yeah, but we can at least see from the road if they do have them, we could at least cross those off the list.
What
Yeah,
are
for
these
sure.
plaques? What are they? Because the blacksmith shop and the Pioneer House have plaques. They're blue and gold. They're out there. You can see them as you leave.
Well, those are the signs. Those are like the historic markers, though, right? That are on the
Okay,
poles. Yeah, these are the plaques
Our
issued by
plaques
the
will look
commission.
Like that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They're an oval. I think it's directly mounted to the structure.
Right. It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember that there were any plaques before you started working on them.
Really, because the list I had said that some had, like that one house, the Porter Home. If it does have one, and I thought I saw it at the back door when I went in. I didn't do that one. That was before me. It was designated before.
And I'm not confident in my memory at all, but I don't know why we would have come up with a new design that you worked on, that you have in your hand there, if plaques had been given out prior to that.
We may have just copied one that Pat gave me that they had already done.
Maybe we need to go to one of the properties we know has a plaque and see what the plaque looks like.
Another suggestion I was going to throw out there, since we're working on the letter and the brochure that are already going to be going to every designated property owner. Do we, in the near term, we can look at the publicly owned landmarks. If they don't have them, we can order plaques for those now because we have the budget. And then include in our mailing to designated property owners, asking them to confirm whether or not they've received a plaque from the town for their designation. And then that would get us some more information on that, whether or not they're actually installed or installed in an area that we can see from the road. If that sounds like an idea, but just throwing that out there for an option so we can still at least proceed with getting some plaques ordered.
Yeah, we can certainly do the ones we know that don't have them, like Greg's, and some of the more recent ones we designated, they don't have them.
Did everyone hear that from Mark? So that'd be like another option. Since we know at least the more recent designations for sure were not ordered plaques, we could also do recent private property owners for receiving plaques. I don't know if anyone prefers one way or the other.
What about a little of both? I mean, I think it would
Yeah.
be good to, like, if we're already going to be sending the letter and brochure, like, are we definitely, that's definitely the plan to anyone that's got,
Yeah.
So what if we, like, we know there's houses that definitely don't have plaques, but the ones that we're not sure, just stick that little extra thing in the envelope so that we can hopefully get a confirmation whether they have one or not, and then you have a complete list. So you don't necessarily have to send that letter to everybody, but just the ones that we're not sure if they have a plaque or not.
Well, Pat would give them out at some meeting. So wouldn't that be in the minutes? I don't know.
That's
what
true,
meeting.
yeah.
I know that she did it formally.
Yeah, so we could look back in the minutes too to see if we can find some evidence
Just
there.
don't know
Yeah.
what meeting, whose meeting it would have been. Unless it was a town board or it wouldn't have been planning board or zoning. I think it may have been a town board meeting. And I can hone in on the dates, at least for these three.
Right. I'm amenable to Sarah's recommendation if we do, because we do know a handful for certain that don't.
But
So if we mix that with a couple of the publicly owned
Changed.
landmarks.
if they sold it, they might not know it. The prior owner got one and just didn't put it up
True,
if it changed hands.
yeah.
I'll do more digging.
Okay, so are folks amenable to Sarah's suggestion? If so, I can try to consult with Craig, figure out what we have as far as available for discretionary spending on plaques. Do we have a price on plaques?
No, that's another
Okay.
whole project, because that
Okay.
guy's out of business now, and we'd have to find another place. And
So why don't we have that as to work on item for next month? We can get a preliminary list, which is essentially just a mix of publicly designated landmarks, or publicly owned designated landmarks that we can look at, and then our short list of privately owned that we know for sure don't. That can be our starting list, and then taking that armed with, Mark, if you're able to get pricing, then that can inform how many we could proceed with ordering, and maybe we can do a vote on those next month. If that sounds good to folks. Yeah, okay, so we'll plan on that then for next month as one of our primary old business items that will hopefully be armed with enough information we can plan a vote to order a to be determined number of plaques for designated properties. Okay, last call for any other old business items. Okay, I've got 8:49. If I can get a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Tom seconds. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all. We are adjourned.